Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ned Bellavance, Ned1313 on Twitter, and welcome to the Daily Check-In for May 18th, 2021. Now, you might be wondering, hey, did I miss the Daily Check-In for May 17th? And the answer is, you didn't miss it. I did. Just to be totally transparent here, this is probably the second time that I've missed one. And the reason is because I was working on my Terraform Tuesday video, and I also have two Pluralsight courses that I'm currently working on. I was up to 11, which, I mean, that might not be late for some people, but that's like super late for me. Usually my bedtime when I turn into a pumpkin is 10 o'clock at the latest, and that usually includes some sort of unwinding time. Nope, last night up to 11, and I gotta say, my brain just stopped at a certain point, and I totally forgot about the daily check-in. So my apologies, but I'm back. Let's check in. How are you? How was your Monday? Did you work the whole day and then work the whole night, or did you get some breaks? I hope you're taking a moment to treat yourself, to relax a little bit. Right now, I know that I am in the zone when it comes to work. I've probably overdone it a little bit, but I also know that once I complete the projects that I'm currently working on, I have some vacation time planned out, and I'm going to take that vacation time, and I'm not going to work. I might not even do the daily check-in for a week. I hope you don't mind. Just need that time to recharge and relax. So that's my plan. Hopefully you have a similar plan. You have to take care of yourself in the same way that I have to take care of myself. And you know who else needs to take care of themselves? IT departments and security. Now, one of the listeners out there, hello, you requested to know my opinion on the whole Colonial Pipeline ransomware thing and you know, that sort of thing in general. And so I thought I would outline some general thoughts on it. I am by no means a cybersecurity expert. I don't claim to be. I don't even play one on TV. Now, in terms of what actually happened from an incident perspective, once again, I don't have any additional insight beyond anybody else. So if you're looking for, good solid reporting, check out Brian Krebs. He always has some good security takes when it comes to anything, especially ransomware, though. So I can't speak to that any better than they can, but I would say go read what they think. Now, it's interesting that, there have been a lot of ransomware attacks, and suddenly a ransomware attack kicks the government into motion. It kicks the government into motion to sign an executive order about national security and ransomware. And it's interesting that of all the emergencies that have happened, I mean, hospitals have been affected by ransomware. Governments have been affected by ransomware. But finally, a ransomware operation hit the oil pipeline, and suddenly we've got an executive order. So I think it's a little sad that that's the thing that finally kicks stuff into motion at the governmental level. Hopefully, this is also a wake-up call for companies that haven't taken the time to analyze their security posture when it comes to ransomware and other cyber attacks. You'd think that the SolarWinds attack would have been a wake-up call, but for a lot of people, they looked at the sophistication of the attack and the type of attack and said, well, we don't really write software, so the SolarWinds attack it's not something that we have to protect against because we're not a software development shop. Okay, fair enough. But there's been tons of other breaches of various kinds and lots of ransomware attacks. You might think, well, I'm not a hospital. I'm not a government institution. I'm a small company. My risk is relatively low. And of course, that's always true. Whenever you're approaching security, you're doing a risk analysis. What's the risk of not implementing security controls? And what is the cost of implementing those security controls? And you're doing a trade-off. It's a basic equation. Is it worth the money that I'm going to put into adding these security controls versus the risk and the fallout if the breach occurs? And it's not just a monetary thing from literally I'm losing productivity. In some cases, there's also a hit on your reputation. Now, as we've seen based off the SolarWinds stock price, maybe the reputation hit is not that big of a worry. What is more troubling is for organizations that are responsible for mission-critical infrastructure, or at least highly sensitive infrastructure. They really do need to have their ducks in a row, and it does make sense for them to invest the additional money to have plans in place for disasters like the big freeze out that happened in Texas and the power grid, or malicious actors like what happened with the Colonial Pipeline. Now, what can you do if you're in a situation where you need to implement some of this security? Well, the good news is that not that ransomware is solved, but it is a solvable problem. Having backups of whatever might be encrypted in an inaccessible location is not something that's overly challenging at this point. You could simply set up some sort of replication to an offsite location, probably in the cloud, and configure that location to be write once, read many. In other words, make it immutable. I believe S3 has an immutable feature now, so you could, in theory, just take your sensitive data that you always need access to and write it to an S3 bucket in an immutable way, and then just write a new version of it as often as you need to. And then in the event of a ransomware attack, you can always go back to the previous version, because ransomware assumes that it has read-write access to the files that it's trying to lock up. If it doesn't have read-write access and it doesn't have purge access, well, then it can't really attack you in that way. So if you have any critical data that you need access to at all times, well, okay, you need to have some sort of protection mechanism in place. And the good news is there's a bunch of protection mechanisms. Even whatever backup software you currently are using probably has some sort of ransomware protection built into it. Now, of course, you have to implement it properly, but assuming that you've implemented it properly, recovering from a backup is a viable option. And in fact, apparently, even though Colonial Pipeline paid the ransom of, I believe, $5 million, they actually ended up recovering their systems from a backup. I think they were in a panic mode and said, well, let's just pay the ransom. So maybe that's the other thing to discuss is, should you or shouldn't you pay the ransom? Now, the thing about ransomware is it's a difficult avenue to walk. It's in the best interests of those who create the ransomware and apply it to give you the keys to unlock your locked up files if you pay them. If they never gave you the keys, then people would stop paying because they would realize, okay, well, even if I pay, I'm never getting my files back. Okay, so it's in the ransomware writers and implementers' best interests to give you the keys if you pay. Now, if you're in a situation where you don't have good backups and the only way to get your data is to pay, well, then it's completely understandable that you would pay the money with the expectation that you're going to get your data back. It's not a good situation. It's pretty awful, but it's kind of what's going to happen. Now, this creates a vicious cycle, right? Because you're willing to pay and it's in their best interests to give you your data back. You've created a cycle here where more and more people will pay, and the fact that they get their data back is fairly dependable. What really needs to happen is someone needs to stop paying. Organizations need to stop paying the ransomware people. And if people stop paying and the money dries up, then they're going to move on to a different vector to attack you. They're going to drop the ransomware thing. But the only way that's going to happen is if people protect themselves properly. And the only way that's going to happen is if the cost of not protecting yourself is higher than the cost of properly protecting yourself. So again, we get back to this trade-off when it comes to security. To a certain degree, the cost of implementing a robust anti-ransomware solution might have been higher than the cost of just paying the ransom. And as long as the cost of paying the ransom is less than the cost of implementing the system, ransomware attacks will keep happening because people will keep paying. So I guess ultimately what it comes down to is you need a way to lower the cost of implementing and maintaining an anti-ransomware solution so far down that it is less than the cost of paying the ransom, and then you'll see more companies take it seriously. And it also has to be relatively simple to set up. So those are my thoughts on ransomware in general, the Colonial Pipeline attack, and what we should do moving forward. If you are working for an organization and you don't have a robust anti-ransomware plan, you should probably work on that like now. and investigate some of the tools that are out there. If you already have your plan in place, good for you. Gold star, well done. That'll do it for me for today. Thank you, as always, for listening. Very much appreciated. Again, my apologies for missing yesterday. Some days I just don't have it. Yesterday was one of those days. But today I'm back. So life is good. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe out there, and bye for now.